comics that we're reading, we usually start off by sharing what our listeners are reading, and then we'll dive into what we're reading. So from Comic Watch, our editor-in-chief, Matt Meyer, said currently catching up on the recent issues of Daredevil, Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetto, which I don't think I pronounce his name correctly. I
don't think you pronounce a lot of people's names right.
I don't. I really don't. I really need to spend more time like trying to find out how to pronounce it. I just don't think of it until we start recording. I'm like, yeah, I should have done that.
You should see about putting me into Google Translate to see how like Google Translate does it.
Usually what I do as a, kind of a side note is if I know how to pronounce a name, I type out the phonetic pronunciation. I don't type out how their name is actually spelled. I'll type it out phonetically. And that's how a lot of people do that. Yeah. So, but I got to actually look it up and do that. And I haven't been doing that for a while. So so I'm probably way off on this, but Matt said that they're writing one of his favorite Daredevil runs in years, which a lot of people said that. And I confirmed that as well, too. It's been one of my favorite Daredevil runs. In our Lumina Casters Discord channel, Kim from the ODPH podcast says in all caps, Battle Chasers, Image Comics, the long-awaited number 10 finally hits comic shops on June 14th. Fantasy, adventure, action, let's go. So yeah, he said that all caps. Mm-hmm. So he's really excited about that. And Joe Loves Comics said currently reading through and enjoying Walking Dead Compendium, volume number 2, among other things. So thank you very much for all those who share what they're reading. Kevin, what are you currently reading in comics, if anything? Because I know we talked about this before. Sometimes you don't have time to read comics and all that, which is understandable.
Yeah, school just ended. So I haven't had a chance to pick up anything here recently. One of the things I will say, and you mentioned it before, I have Superman Earth 1 on my bookshelf over here, and I've never read it.
You need to read it, man. I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it this week. I know that I have the first two. I definitely have the first two. I loved Batman Earth 1. And I feel like just the way I feel about Superman Birthright, I feel like Batman Earth 1 would be a great place to start. Like, this is your storyboard. Just make this movie.
Yeah.
So I'll jump into Superman Earth 1. And it's just, I bought it years ago thinking, I'll get around to reading this. And I never did. And so
yeah,
I owe it to myself as a fan of Superman. I owe it to all Superman fans, at least to give.
You owe it to Superman.
I do.
I'm telling you, I think once you read it, text me because I think you'll really love it. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a really good one. For me, so there are a couple books I'm reviewing for Comic Watch that are coming out this week. Batman Incorporated number 9, which if you've been following me on social media or been listening to the episodes, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of Batman Incorporated. I had Ed Brisson and John Timms, who are the creators of the current series, on the show. Absolutely great. This one is a really good issue because it pretty much raised the stakes a little bit higher that I wasn't expecting them to raise it to. And so it really is a nail biter for this series. And then the other one I'm reviewing is Battle Chasers number 10, which Kim from ODPH podcast is talking about how much he loved it. Because he shared how much he loved it, that's what made me volunteer Comic Watch to review it. I got to tell you, it's phenomenal, especially if you love D&D and that kind of world. Mm-hmm. It's a really fun one. It has a little bit of everything. There's humor, there's romance, there's action. It is really well done. Apparently, there's a whole anthology that was written issues 1 through 9 like years ago, and then they just pretty much stopped.
So I know a little bit about that one. I know that it's Joe is it Madeira.
Yeah.
And he was one of my favorite artists on the X-Men in the early to mid 90s. It has a very distinct style. And around the same time that the guys left that formed Image Comics, Joe also left like the main stuff and started doing Battle Chasers. And so I know a little bit about it. I've never read it, but I know that it has a huge following. So I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see it back.
Yeah. I will say this. There's a character named Red Monica. I know why she's called Red Monica, because she'll make your face turn red.
Okay, I'm going to look her up right now.
Yeah. That captured your attention, right?
Yeah.
So those are the two I'm reviewing.
Oh, yeah, I know her.
Yeah. And Kevin's saying this with a smile on his face now too.
Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah. On my poll list for this week, I have Amazing Spider-Man number 27, not because I'm reading it, but because I'm getting the variant cover that has Mickey Mouse as Iron Man on it. Like that's the only reason why I'm collecting these issues is for the variant covers for the Disney the variant covers.
Disney 100, is it
I don't think it's it might be Disney 100. I don't know, I have to check and see it, but it's definitely a like they have these variant issues where they take Disney characters and they place them in these iconic Marvel Avengers poses, stuff like that. So they had Goofy as the Hulk from the first issue of Hulk, where Bruce Banner is kind of like that small human, and then the Hulk is kind of overshadowing him. So they're like recreating some of those with characters from the Disney cartoons. So,
okay, I see. Yeah, it is a Disney 100. What
is
if?
it Disney 100? Yeah, I could. I've been seeing Disney 100 everywhere. I couldn't remember if this was a Disney 100 or if I'm thinking like the Funko Pops and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I see the Minnie Mouse as Captain Marvel.
Yes, that's the next one.
Man, I want to get some of these posters.
Yeah, I'm collecting them. We're going to put them in like a little case and like hang them on the wall. Yeah,
Daisy Duck as Miss Marvel. I'm going to have to look up all of them.
Mm-hmm. You do that, yeah.
I'm gonna find some posters to decorate my classroom with.
Yeah. I'm also picking up Marvel's Voices Pride number 1, which I've been collecting that one for the last few years. I absolutely love reading the Pride issues from Marvel. Rogue and Gambit number 4, which Kevin, you need to read. You got to start reading those, man. I'm telling you.
Will.
As a huge fan of Rogue, you will really enjoy this. Especially it's written from Stephanie Phillips, and she's a really phenomenal writer. Also picking up Spider-Gwen Shadow Clones, I think issue number 4 or 5. And then the last one I'm picking up is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 140, which I'm excited about because there's a new artist on this series, Gavin Smith, who is from my home state of Indiana, and his cover looks amazing. So
awesome.
I'm very excited about that. So those are all my comics on my poll list. Thank you, everybody who submitted what they're reading.